direction. Now, this is where me and some of the older generation have differed. It is my contention, and I'll repeat this anywhere, that I believe the civil rights generation dropped the ball with hip-hop. And I dare say they turned their back on it. And you don't have to agree, you don't have to disagree, but my posing of the question is this. If you got a 19-year-old Ice Cube, you know, an 18-year-old Eazy-E, how do you teach a child like that? With hatred? By telling them they're disgrace to the race and steamrolling their CDs? Or do you stop a child who's 18 and say, hey, young brother, let me have a conversation with you? You know, I've done a prison program or two in my day. And believe me, the way you get through them is not by acting like you tougher than them. You show them, yes, I am you. I used to be in that exact situation. I'll remember my number forever until the day that I die. You know, that has nothing to do with it. What we have to do is to have that conversation about what goes on after it. You know what I mean? When I have that conversation with young people that are really living the street life, I tell them, okay, brother, well then let's do the math. And let's say you hustled real hard for a year, you managed to save up, you know, $200,000-$300,000. What you gonna do with the money? You're gonna have to wash it somehow because Uncle Sam gonna want his cut. You're gonna buy a car, it's gonna be worth half of what it was when you get off the lot. Jewelry is a horrible realizing that they're an asshole for making that joke. They're like, oh, well, you know, I was just kidding. You know, this is all fun and games to show the most negative stereotype of someone else. And I'm not saying that in the old school people had perfect lyrics or that, you know, they were the model citizen either. But everybody seemed to know their lessons. They seemed to understand where they came from and they had knowledge of self. And I think that was the big difference. Nowadays, I don't think we're out of line for saying that hip-hop can sometimes, and in many ways, become a caricature of what Black and Latino people are. Not the real thing, you know? If you want to exemplify who we are, then you can't just shove a piece of chicken in your mouth and act like, you know, dancing around is going to get you love over here. You know, I tell people, we had this conversation about even white people using the N-word. And I was saying that, look, I can't stop nobody from saying whatever they feel comfortable saying in the presence of their own people, wherever they are. But I'll tell you this, if you could do that in Mississippi, in Alabama, everything that we are as a people, then at least, you know, be able to tell me who John Henry Clark is, you know what I mean? Be able to tell me, you know, I have read the Malcolm autobiography. I mean, something that would show me that you at least have some caring in your heart for our people, because you can't love our music without loving our people. You can't love our music and think that we're and look at us and still have that little thing in your brain like Spike Lee put in where he has the conversation with the Italian brother in the pizzeria, and he says to him, oh, well, those are just niggas. And well, who's your favorite basketball player? He tells him, Michael Jordan, you know what I mean? Where he has all these conversations to him about how his icons are really people of the race that he has all these negative ideas about. When if he just realized that, you know, if you take race out of the equation for a second and you just look at the nuts and bolts of what it is, I think that while there is definitely racism involved, that hip-hop is run more by classism. If you have the money, then you can be a rich black producer that robs and rapes his own artists in the fashion of the white producers that used to do that in the 50s and 60s. And if we talk about gangsterism, I think that we'll find out that the record industry was based upon that. Even the black artists back in the day, you had to be down with the Italian or the Jewish mafia in order to get your money. Why? Because if you are an artist that barely got a right to vote, or if you had no right to vote, we talk about the 40s and 50s here, and you over there asking a promoter for your money, it's different if you got Avi in them or Louis in them. You already know why we're here, man. I'm not here to play with you. You know, they're not playing. It's not, you know, 6 brothers with trombones and senses on the pie that we're gonna have 100%, and you're gonna get 10 points, which is 10% of the pie. But all the expenses that we had for your record is going to be deducted, not out of the gross, but out of the net that you got, which is the 10%. If that's not some gangster shit, I don't know what it is. And just to conclude what I have to say, I learned very early in the hip-hop business, and in all business, that a petty criminal and a gangster, they're related. but they're not cut from the same cloth. You know, when you steal something from a store, you're a petty criminal. When you take something from somebody, you're a petty criminal. When you make people take your money, you're a gangster. When you go to someone else's country and say, I don't care who you voted in, little nigga, you're gonna sell me all your oil rights for that amount of money. Take it. Or you want my IMF loan? No, you don't want it, but you're gonna take this $50 billion with 20% on top of that anyway. You're gonna take my money. When you are a rap producer and you tell someone, hey man, I'm gonna sign you, here's $25,000 for 6 albums, you're gonna take my money. That's the type of gangsterism you're dealing with. Just understand that it is a form of entertainment to a lot of people, and that's how they see it. Very different from the organic aspect of how we make music and how we choose to relate and express ourselves. Very different from the way underground or independent artists sees a connection with the people that support them, who believe in the music that they make. The way that a corporation basically sees it is, are the numbers there? Yes, fine. It doesn't even matter what the message promotes anymore. I don't care, yo. Are you talking about black power? Can you sell more than 500,000 units? Great. You know what I mean? Are you talking about pimping hoes and selling cars? Can you sell more than 500,000 units? Wonderful. That's the bottom line. I think that honestly, you know, during the late 90s or mid 90s, they got spooked about the community empowerment, but the bottom line is they're just interested in numbers. That's it. They don't care about our culture, they don't care about us, they don't care if we live or die. You know, if that little boy in the video toting a gun gets his head shot off, they don't care. It's not their responsibility, it's not their fault, it's your fault. That's how they see it.
So if the power structure hasn't changed, if the mentality of those that run the entertainment industry and are trying to really trick you into giving them their money, and like my brother said, sell you an illusion, if that hasn't changed, then the imagery isn't going to change. You know, and they're going to continue selling you this same thing. They just update it. You know, they just update it and bring it into 2012, so it was the twist back then, and then it's Soulja Boy doing the Superman, and whatever else is the new latest dance, and they just repackage it and resell it in that formula. And really, I have a line. I say dumb rappers need teaching, but they still be the man because dumb fans keep believing. And I think this is where we have to be more intelligent consumers. And I always say that if you don't, you know, if you want to see a change, then you have to support artists and the music that reflects you and what you want to see. Because the reality is, if we all got together and said, man, we support the Immortal technique, we support Invincible, and we sharing, I mean, because we spend a lot of time, sometimes I think too much, being critical about the mainstream. And you know, we want to have like 5-6 hour conversations about Nicki Minaj and the detriment, but don't talk about these brilliant female MCs like Invincible, Star in Atlanta, Saswat, that are making these incredible hip-hop music and saying, okay, well, let's stop talking about them. Let's share this. Let's make sure these sisters are known and recognized, and let's email their videos to one another. Let's make sure people are watching them. And I think if we as consumers were more intelligent about what we consume and not really being gangster, because a lot of times that's what we do. We'll say, well, this is what's on the radio, so I'm gonna just listen, you know, and we'll give you credit. We'll like hate the song, like I hate this song, but then on listen number 50, we singing the song and we find out that, and you can think like, why am I singing this? I hate this song, but we continue to listen to. But how often are we organized in a way where we're challenging stations like Hot 97 or Power? I think it was Power 105, and the stations here and saying, no, we demand a balance in the music. We want to hear artists like Immortal Technique on this station. We want to hear artists that talk about consciousness. We're tired of hearing the violence that's happening in our community.